We have a unique nation, a republic, like no others. And so this must be unique. This will be our nation's capital.
Hello, friends. This is David Vos, and it's June 19th. It's 2014. It's Thursday. It's good to see everybody today. Got a very important subject to talk about today. It is, again, sort of along the lines of the occult, who they are, what they're doing, their agenda. It's a very, I have a lot of these videos, and there's a lot to be said. I try not to put too much detail into every video because I think the videos have to be watchable, and many of you may know much of the stuff that I'm saying, and some of the things that I say may be new to you, but some of you have already researched this. But remember, this is going to go out to many people, and some of them who don't know any of this information. So I've got to make this clear and simple for people who are really not aware of these things. But today I want to go into the aspect of the Jesuit order, who they are, what they've done, and how that pertains to the Rothschild bloodline, what they're up to, who really is the highest in the degrees of the secret societies, what organization, how they relate to one another. For instance, you've got the Bilderbergers, and you've got these Bohemian Society, you've got the Masons, you've got the Templars, you've got the Golden Dawn, and of course the Jesuit order. There's just lots of different things. There's Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, Christian Science, and a lot of people will take a look at organizations like that and say, well, now that's not the same thing. Well, this is where it gets really deep. You start explaining this on the surface to people, they're going to say that you're going too far, you're making this up, that, like it's some huge conspiracy everybody in the world involved in. And if they're all involved in it, then what problem do we got? Well, the Mormon founder, Joseph Smith, was a Mason. His father was a Mason. His brother was a Mason. All of the rites in the Mormon church are almost, they're really, really identical to the Masonic rites. They've got, they don't even deny this. If you go to Mormon sources and literature, you'll read about how they believe in the Masonic order. Now, the Jehovah's Witnesses are a different one because no Jehovah's Witness would admit to being any kind of a secret society or having any ties to the Masonic order or any other kind of secret society. They outwardly oppose all such societies. They don't even get involved in politics. But in reality, of course, they started off meeting in halls and lodges and not churches. This, from the beginning, was organized and set up just like the other lodges, only with the guise that they were Christian, that they were serving Jehovah. But you know, they don't say, "Hey, we've got a priesthood," like the Mormons do, and yet they have a priesthood by another name. Just like they have churches by another name, a lodge or a hall, the Kingdom Hall. But their priesthood is the ministry school, and you just like in the Mormon Church, you start off in the lower order, which is in the Mormon Church is the Levitical priesthood, and then you move up into the Melchizedek priesthood. Well, with the witnesses, it's almost identical. You start off in the ministry school as a ministerial servant. They have these odd names that no one else in the world would use. And then you move up into an elder, which again, even in the Mormon Church, when you're a Melchizedek priest, you're an elder. So, and you go into meetings, private meetings that they don't have with the rest of the congregation. They're privy to certain knowledge and different things. They make different, you know, I mean, there's a lot of control is part of it. And one of the big things that the occult started Jehovah's Witnesses for, and they did this with the Mormons, is the main thing and thrust with them is to produce propaganda throughout the world and to get into Christian homes. One way to get into a home that's Christian is to pretend to be a Christian with a slightly different view. Sometimes you can get into people's homes, and of course the publishing of all of this literature and propaganda. And not to come out and tell people, hey, we worship Satan, because nobody would accept that. But to just slightly alter and put doubts in the minds of Christians everywhere in the world that perhaps Jesus wasn't God, or perhaps, there's many gods, or perhaps there's this, or perhaps that. And they've just done this to slowly work their way into the Christian mind. They did this with Christian Science. Maybe God is just everywhere. Maybe it's your mind. But anyway, these their little tentacles are in everything, So yes, Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and Christian Science churches and buildings are part of it, and yes, the other groups and cults are all part of it. Bilderberger isn't really another cult; it's just a huge party club for very high members of the Illuminati. But every one of these groups have a purpose, and they were all created and started by the Illuminati. Now, that's what I would call, because you've got to come up with words and phrases, because this isn't written down in some book. Okay, this is just human beings looking into our past and trying to determine what they did. We got to put names and categorize all of this, and so what we're doing is we're saying the entire thing is called the Illuminati. But I would even go so far as to just say it is the Babylonian priesthood of ancient days. Remember, this goes back. I mean, when ancient civilizations were on the earth, they had these priesthoods. The priesthood, like in Egypt, where they learned to write and transcribe, and they did all kinds of magic, and they mapped the charts of the stars and so forth. All of this has come down to us in the various things that they're doing today. So, who is the biggest, the most, what organization is like above all the others? None of them. None of the organizations that you know about is higher than any of the other organizations. All of the organizations have a purpose. Now, the Jesuit order is not the order that runs the world. The Jesuit order is simply one of the orders that they can use to. It's like the CIA basically. They're covert. They're beneath. You don't when you think of the Catholics, you don't think of the Jesuits, and yet they run the Catholics. That's why the last pope that they put in was a Jesuit, the Black Pope. The Jesuits were the ones that they created to overtly control, go into, I mean, they didn't want, pretty little priests with their little white robes running in, subverting households and killing people. So they had to use the the Jesuits, which were undercover, and they would go in and kill and destroy and slice people's throats and you know force people to become a Catholic or die. This was what they did throughout the centuries and the Inquisitions, and it is what they're pledged to do today. Their pledge and their promise to their deities are simple. They are going to subvert the entire world. Everyone will bow to them. And, does that make them then higher up than the Masons or the Mormons? Or no. All of them. So all these organizations and groups, they all serve their purpose. But who's running the show is Satan. And Satan is going to use his ancient priesthood that he's been using for thousands of years, the same one he used in Babylon, and the same one he used in Egypt, and Persia, and Greece, and there in Rome. And it is his priesthood. And it is the Babylonian, it's the mystery, Babylon the Great. And it sits in Rome today, and the Pope is the vicar of not Christ, but the vicar of Lucifer. Even though they call it Christ, it's another Christ. And they are the power on this earth, the beast, the false prophet, that channel through which Satan runs this world. So all these different organizations that you see, the Bilderbergers and the Mormons and the Witnesses, and every one of these groups, they're all just some means to an end, and they all serve their purpose. Even the Muslim religion was started by this Babylonian religion, this Babylonian priesthood. But so each one has its purpose. For instance, the Witnesses, their purpose was to subvert households, Christian households, and to publish propaganda, and to have a small priesthood that they could bring these young boys in, get them worked through the ministerial servant classes and up into the elder classes, so they could become good managers of companies and businesses all over the world. They could trust them, like some of these occult organizations where they make you swear and or you're going to get killed, and they'll rip your bowels out, and you make these vows, and this is how they control you. Well, the Witnesses have the same thing with them. If you if you cross them in any way, if you try to speak out against them in any way or do anything that they don't like, then they can disfellowship you. That is the way they keep their ironclad control. You have to do exactly what they say, or they will completely destroy you as a person. I mean, they can't physically kill you. Well, they say they can't. We don't know, but probably they don't go around killing people. But they, well, they couldn't get their ordinary rank and file members to kill people because they've taught them that murder is wrong. So this is part of the the illusion. But what they do is they spiritually put you to death, and you no longer have your family. You can't talk to anyone. You lose your job. You lose it all. You lose your mind. So it's control. That's what these people in every one of these organizations have, is control. And they need to control because each one of these things plays a part. Each one of these groups plays their part. So Mormons, again, it's mainly to produce propaganda, bring up a young man through the priesthood, teach him many things, gain much power and control over his mind, and then send him out as a manager or some kind of person they can control in the economic field, put him over a business. You see, managers of businesses make very little money. CEOs, some of them make a lot of money, but those are the kind of CEOs that are really just owners, but they've turned the word into CEO because they nowadays have these huge multi-mega monopolies, and it's kind of difficult to say who owns them because they're really just owned by the the order, and those in the order get to take their turn at at the little merry-go-round and changed seats, and so they're now CEOs, you know. But those are the ones at the top. When you talk about any company that's got a CEO, these large companies that Walmart and so forth, these are part of the Illuminati. It never happens by accident, friends. Google is run by Jews. If you look up the owners, the two men that you know started Google, they were Jewish. The man who started, a young man, started Facebook is Jewish. Um, they didn't start these things for a company to make a little money. They started Google to run the world. It's their means. So again, is Google the top tier of the Illuminati? No. I mean, it serves its purpose. It is that part of the Illuminati that is subverting our minds through the internet. But there is many ways and in many levels that they've got complete real control over everything. Everything, the television, the radio personalities, the everything all around us. So uh, that's pretty much what I wanted to get out there today in this message. The Illuminati uh, is a powerful, powerful organization because it's, you know, secret. That's where they have their power, and it's full of control, and it binds people with spells, and it is straight from Satan, friends. And we in this country are not going to ever have our freedom, and are ever going to have our happiness the way that it could have been here in America if we don't get rid of this secret societies. And that's one of the things that is very important for me to get everyone to understand, is that as citizens of America, we need to stand up and demand that these secret societies be outlawed. They should not be allowed to operate in the United States if they are going to be secret. If there's going to be things that they are doing that is related to the public, they're doing them in secret, it should be outlawed. And no one who is a part of a secret society should be allowed to run for office if they don't renounce their secret, you know, dealings and purposes. Everybody's got to be transparent. And if we can't do that, we ought to at least, as a people, be aware of the fact that these secret societies have got a monopoly on our senators and congressmen, and we should make it our business to know that when we elect somebody, there's got to be somebody that's a real person and not somebody that is just part of this oligarchy. Because they're not for us, friends. They're not for us. They're for Satan, and their whole purpose is to subvert our minds to take us away from the true God and stop us from believing in Jesus Christ. They have all kinds of mystical symbols throughout their organization, layers upon layers. And so if they tell you this symbol means this, that's only the meaning that it has for you, but it is not the meaning that they use for themselves. There are various levels and layers of meanings, and these symbols are to hide it from you, to veil it from you, but it is known to those at the top. It isn't even known by those people in these organizations. Jehovah's Witnesses don't even know they're part of it. The Mormons, probably most of them, don't even know they're part of the Illuminati. The many of the Masons who go to their lodges every day don't even understand or know anything about what they're doing. So, friends, that's what I have to say this week. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week and a good weekend to come. And this is David Vo signing out. Have a good day.